Welcome everyone to the Mercedes-Benz World Driving Experience. So a couple of weeks ago I joined my girlfriend's dad Frank for his half-day AMG GT experience. So he got to try a 4-door C63s, an E63s, and a GTS in the span of about 3 hours. The facility lends you an instructor as well as the cars you try to experience different exercises varying from acceleration, slalom, skid pad, and even some track driving. I'm certainly not used to being a passenger, so it took some time to get used to. Frank's instructor Ollie did a good job of teaching him the basics like visual techniques, threshold braking, hand positioning, which are all really important when you've developed bad habits through driving on the street for so many years. I didn't interject too much, but I gave Frank a few tidbits throughout the day. So the first step was to get Frank acclimated with the C63s and for the instructor to get a basic idea of bad habits that Frank specifically has formed over years of street driving.
Good. So what we're going to do, as you guys just said, really narrow, isn't it? Super narrow circuit, and it's basically what you would find on a country B road as our kind of half of the road, effectively. That's the idea. It is obviously one way, so that does add to the width a little bit. Good. What we'll do, let's take a left round here for me. Good. And then we're going to take this next right as our kind of turn one, okay? What I want you to do on this circuit to begin with is drive at 50% of what you can do. Driving at a speed where it's impossible for us to make a mistake, and a speed that we can have a conversation at.
You want me to accelerate?
No.
The instructor had a brake of his own in case of emergencies, but he was pretty good about not using it. If I were in his place, I definitely would have used it a whole lot more, to be quite honest.
Well, we try and do what we call a fixed input. So I don't want you to move your hands on the steering wheel at all, okay? So just above the buttons, there's a little cutout. So just there, so keep your thumbs kind of wrapped around the steering wheel like that. Perfect. Yeah. So you've got a good grip on the wheel. Yeah. And that's right in the centre, so the leverage is pretty good as well. Yeah. We're going to try and keep our hands there if we can.
Okay.
If that feels uncomfortable, we can obviously move the wheel closer to you.
All the time.
Further away. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
So let's try that around here for me. When we shuffle the steering wheel, it's super easy to kind of lose that 1-to-1 ratio with the front wheels. Whereas now, you know exactly where they're pointing.
That's a good point. You're right, actually. It feels different.
On the correct with the wheel like that, So you basically drive a little bit slower at the moment. Just drive a little bit slow until we know the track and things. So like I said, we're just going through techniques at the moment. Accuracy. It's really important. We'll talk about the throttle and the brake as well, the other two inputs that we have on the car. We've still got 500 horsepower. We're getting it down to the ground through two relatively skinny road tyres on the back. So we don't have a huge amount of grip, just a standard road car. So the way we apply the power is really important. So as we exit a corner, we want to input the power once. What we don't want to do is come past the apex and then go power, then power. It's a smooth application all the way through. Okay, and same again. So keep on applying the power, keep feeding and braking. Look how much smoother that is already. Yeah, that's only on the power application. Okay, so as we come into a corner, which is pretty much what you're doing anyway, we're having a nice firm brake. You're not kind of stabbing the brake or hitting it really hard and jumping off, which is good. But we want to do what we call trail braking. Have you heard of trail braking before?
No, go ahead.
Trail braking is quite a difficult technique. It's not something that is kind of a basic technique anymore. It's quite advanced. But the idea is to manipulate the weight transfer of the car. Okay? So, for example, let's say we're doing 100 miles an hour at the moment. We'd be braking really hard, holding the brake as we turn until the apex. Now we release the brake. Okay? We don't off, just half power, and then as it's feeding in as the wheel straightens.
Gently, right,
Good. Brake a little bit late that time, didn't we?
A little bit, yeah.
Very good fraction late. Cool. Let's drop that speed back down again. How are those techniques feeling now?
Yeah, it's good. It's just the difficulty will be to think about doing all the right things at the right time and forgetting habits, right?
Absolutely.
Go.
Perfect. Good. So hold that power down.
After getting rid of the initial spike of adrenaline, Frank worked on 0 to 80 mile/hour launches with varying levels of traction control.
So what we're going to do now, I want you to have a much more progressive power, as we said, onto the track. So we're going to go from 0% to 100% in probably around 3 or 4 seconds. Go for it. Now full power. second phase of the braking was really good. Sorry, of the accelerating. We got it down gently,
Yeah,
but it was just that first part.
Yeah, I just went too quickly. I think.
Yeah, a little bit too quickly. That's fine, man.
Yeah.
So let's give it another go. Exactly the same, no settings have changed, tarmac hasn't changed, the grip level hasn't changed.
Okay.
Just try and be a bit more gentle on that power. It's just the first half.
Yeah.
That's what we always see.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give it another go then. Good. Perfect. Brake. Nice. That was so much better, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so much better.
Yeah, no,
It was
absolutely, yeah.
much smoother. We've got a much higher top speed, so when we hit the brakes then we're doing 78.
Yeah.
Before we're doing about 73, 74.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, because we haven't lost time at the beginning, right?
Absolutely.
As he learned how to manage the wheel spin, he started to work on threshold braking to improve braking efficiency. The idea was to brake as hard as you can without engaging the ABS system. Although it does work well, it's nowhere near as effective when you don't engage it.
So what we'll do now is we'll concentrate a little bit on braking, and then we're going to start changing driving modes and things. But this time we're going to do something called threshold braking. Have you heard of that before?
No.
So threshold will be in a road car like this. You probably did a similar thing in Formula 3 as well. With a road car, we're trying not to engage the ABS. So when you brake, you get decent kind of normal braking, and you get to a point where it turns into ABS.
Right.
Okay. I want you to be as maximum as you can, but just without taking in the ABS, and that'll be the optimum way to slow the car down. The problem with ABS is that the brakes kind of do this, they come on and off,
right, yeah.
but it's not the quickest way to brake. In the same way that just planting the throttle wasn't the quickest way to get off the line. Let's go for it. Brake.
Yeah. About the same place,
okay,
actually.
It was okay, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where the threshold was. Yeah, it was difficult to actually sense where. Maybe I could have pressed a little bit harder, I think.
What happens is that at high speed, when you hit the brake pressure from full power to brake, every Mercedes pumps on the brakes really, really hard.
Right.
But then as you start slowing down, you can actually apply more and more and more and more brake pressure, because that threshold goes further and further and further away.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
The opposite of a race car.
The exact opposite of a race car, yeah.
We also tried launch control in the E63s, which has all-wheel drive, and the difference in initial thrust was pretty impressive. It's as close as it gets to the preloading of the clutch we do in a Formula 3 car.
Start good, and off the brake now. There we go. Nice. Brake. Good. Perfect.
Wow.
See the difference?
That's the difference.
Gets off the line so fast. I
Very
said
fast,
brake
yeah.
a lot earlier, and we was already doing 80. So we probably would have gone about to 85, 87 that time.
Probably considered to be the main attraction of Mercedes World is the skid pad. It's basically a big circle coated in a material that simulates black ice when it's wet, and then the outer and inner rings are incredibly grippy, so you can spin all you want and not crash.
What I want you to do is steadily increase the speed in a minute until you can feel the car start to do something a bit weird. Tiny bits. Yeah?
What do I do? Oh, yeah. Oh, right.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
There we go.
I love that. Did you get this, Cameron?
So what happened first? So
well, the car just understeer, yeah.
Okay.
And then went sideways. Completely. I wasn't in control of the car. And suddenly it came back in control altogether itself.
Perfect. Let's give it another go. Let's do it even slower. So just take your time to build up the speed so we can feel it. Perfect. Good. Let's see what happens.
That's different in the rear.
Yeah.
The idea is that you learn to balance a car that is out of control, but the exercises brought forth some other street driving habits such as eye placement. When Frank would start to lose control of the car, his gut reaction was to look in the direction of where the car was headed, not where he actually was meaning to go. It sounds really simple, but it makes such a big difference when driving at high speed. When I first started racing, I was taught to never look towards the danger if there was an accident ahead, otherwise I would likely become a part of it, and it's worked out 9 out of 10 times for me that way. Because of the speeds on track, you always need to be at least one step ahead of wherever you are, so you don't have to spend so much brain power being reactive.
One thing I noticed is you keep looking to the outside of the track.
Yeah,
You're losing control.
Yeah.
But that's where you don't want to go. You want to try and keep it on the inside. So if you look to that white line or something, you might be able to control the car better because you're not focused on saving it.
Yeah, exactly that. I was going to go through that in a minute, but yeah, exactly that.
Sorry.
No, that's fine, don't worry. It's not, I like the inputs, it's cool, it's nice. So, what we need to do here, is, as you're saying, is not look towards the danger where we don't want to go. Keep your eyes on the white line, about 2 car lengths around the white line. So up to 10 miles an hour first, and now 20% power. Good. Keep your eyes on that white line. Good. That's it. Off the power. Oh, that's close.
Too late.
Good. That was fine. That wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, I need to practice that a bit more. Yeah.
Let's give it another go then.
Finally, in each of the 3 cars, Franck drove on the larger handling circuit, which brought in some higher speed, but still technical corners. The idea is that the driver uses all of the bits they have learned in the other demonstrations to put together a smooth and fast lap around the track. However, it can be overwhelming for someone who is not used to it.
If you feel comfortable, that's fine. Yeah, try and keep your hands in that position. Try and think about that extra grip level that we've got now, but the braking, the trail braking, all of that stuff that we did before.
Yeah.
Slow it right down. See how long that goes on for. Yeah. The reason why we started to go wide there is purely about our vision, which is just what we mentioned on the wet circle. So don't worry about it too much at the moment. Good. Now have a look round. Keep going around the corner. There we go. So it's just a few inches moving your head round. You can see so much more. Yeah. Don't be afraid to look out these side windows as well if we have to. Good. Braking, holding the brake. Off, squeeze the power. Run out to the white line. Now keep turning in. Bit more power. Bit more. Full power to the floor. Good. Brakes. Hold that brake pressure. Nice. How did that feel?
Yeah, better. But
slowing it down again for this one. That's good. Be gentle. That's it. So we just went a bit wide there as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
See, that's braking a bit too late, aren't we? Yeah. I said there'll be more time to be made up on the exit of the corner than barreling all the speed in and then not being able to accelerate. So we always say slow in, fast out. Nice. Brake. Hold the brake pressure. Release. Pow. That's good. Back on the brake. Looking round, that's it. Good. How much better that line is, just by looking up. Yeah? Huge difference. We're going to use these little blue cones that are around the track. We're going to use them as visual markers.
The hardest thing for Franck to get used to was positioning his eyes one step ahead of where he was. He had to use much more brain energy and being reactive.
So how's that vision anyway?
yeah, it's better. Yeah, it's just a bit of a habit to take.
It is hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard. Because bad habits and
I don't know if it's the same for you. When you started racing as well, it's breaking that habit of just looking at the end of the nose all the time and looking ahead. But then once it becomes natural, you don't even have to think about it anymore. Braking, getting it tucked in as well, looking all the way around. See there, we just looked over here, didn't we? And we ended up there.
We struggled to turn,
Franck was able to get all the bits together on one lap, but he was noticing his concentration falling because the processes weren't yet natural to him, and it can be very, very taxing.
Brake. Harder. Too much. Yeah?
Sorry about that.
We didn't brake at all that time, did we?
It perfectly summarizes the importance of practice for performance driving. So to end the day, Franck had a spin in the AMG GTS. You'll see in the next clips on the handling track just how much Franck improved from his earlier sessions. He was much more precise, confident, and consistent.
Good. Almost did the same thing, but then we looked ahead.
Yeah.
That was perfect. Much more of a rhythm, which is good. Not having to kind of think quite so much. There's one after the other, which is exactly what it needed to be earlier on. Much better. Keep that rhythm going. That's fantastic.
A little bit too early here. Fine.
No, that was fine. Fractionally early, but that's good. Looking around. gears that we're going to use will be second, third and fourth.
Okay.
Stretch the gear and brake. This saves the gear change there already.
Yeah.
Yeah? Up a gear. Up a gear. Brake. Down a gear. Brake harder. Good. That's better. Nice. And then brakes again. Staying in this gear. So it just gives us a little bit more control.
Yeah.
But all it's doing is kind of giving you a little bit more to do as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not. I think we're in a good place at the moment.
So I hope you enjoyed this video. I thought it was really interesting to see someone else's perspective on driving techniques, and it was great to experience the performance of AMG's latest flagships. Even if you have no aspirations or interest in high performance driving, I highly recommend doing something like this to gain the experience of controlling a car that is out of control. Quite honestly, I think it's a process that should be required to get even a normal driver's license. Anyway, see you guys on the next one.